My general purpose is to inform. At the end of my speech, the audience should know the 4 elements involved in effectively training for distance racing. When training for distance racing, there are 4 elements in which you must conduct in order to be successful. These elements include training types, training distances, number of intervals, and frequency of training. During my last deployment to Iraq, I won 11 different races which ranged in distances of 5 kilometers to a half marathon. Based off my 25 years of running experience, I have developed a plan that utilized the 4 elements of training which led to the running success I had in Iraq. Following the plan I developed will improve your fitness level and consists of 4 elements of training which include training types, training distance, number of intervals, and frequency of training. As I have just stated above, I have 25 years of running experience in which I have gained exceptional amount of knowledge training for races of all distances and helping others improve their running times based off the 4 elements of training. First, I will discuss the first element of training, which is training types. There are 4 different kinds of training types. You have sprint, speed, stamina, and endurance. Sprint is nearly an all-out running effort requiring fast speeds. Speed requires fast speeds but not as fast as sprint. Stamina consists of 3 different components. Tempo, which is fast running at a steady pace. Steady state, which is an extremely long tempo run. And tempo intervals, which are long interval repeats. Endurance also consists of 3 different components. You have recovery runs, which are slow running and are intended for the day after a key workout. A long run, which consists of about 30% of your total weekly mileage. And an easy run, which is ran at the same pace as a long run, but at a much shorter distance. Now that we know the first element, we will move to the next element of training. Second, we will talk about the second element of training, which is training distances. For sprint consists of 100 to 600 meter repeats and is primarily for your 1 miler and 2 milers. Speed consists of 400 meter to 2,000 meter repeats and is primarily for 5K and 15K runs. Stamina consists of tempo, steady state, and tempo intervals and are anywhere from 2 to 16 mile runs. Endurance, which consists of recovery, long, and easy running, is implemented into any distance running program and consists of distances from 6 to 23 miles. Third, we'll talk about the third element of training, which is the number of intervals per type. For sprint, we already know that sprint runs are 100 to 600 meter repeats in which you would do 8 to 3 intervals. So basically, if you're running 100 meter sprint, if you're doing 100 meter sprint repeats, you would do 8. If you're doing 600 meter repeats, you would do 3 of those. So the shorter the distance, the more intervals you'll do. And the longer the run, the less intervals you'll do. Speed runs are 400 to 2,000 meter repeats in which you would do 4 to 2 intervals. Tempo intervals, as an example, would be 3 to 2 mile repeats, meaning you would do 2 mile repeats 3 times. Now that you know the first 3 elements of training, let's move on to the last. Last, we will talk about the fourth element of training, which is frequency of training. Sprint and speed training will alternate every other week. So one week you'll do sprint training, the next week you'll do speed training. For stamina workouts, you have your choice between steady state, tempo, and tempo intervals. You pick one of those. For endurance training, you'll conduct 3 endurance runs per week. You'll do a recovery run, a long run, and an easy run. Now that you are aware of the 4 elements of training, you have the tools and understanding to improve your training and running times. In conclusion, in order to improve your running times, always remember the 4 elements of training, which include training types, training distances, number of intervals, and frequency of training. So remember, the next time someone asks you how they can improve their running times, just tell them about the 4 elements of training.